For years, the stories had been whispered in dark corners of the galaxy. Tales of a warship so powerful, it could destroy an entire fleet with a single strike. Some called it a myth, others an ancient weapon that no one had seen in centuries. But no one could have imagined that the warship was real, and its return would change the course of history. The galaxy was in the middle of a brutal war. Alien forces, known for their ruthless tactics, had gathered in an enormous fleet. They were on the verge of wiping out one of the last remaining human colonies on the edge of space. For months, the humans had been losing battles, unable to match the strength of the enemy's ships. Hope was running out, and it seemed like nothing could stop the alien forces. But there was one thing the aliens didn't know. The humans had a secret, a weapon so powerful, it could turn the tide of war. It was known only as the Phantom. No one remembered its true name. The warship had been lost to time, thought to be a legend or a ghost story told to young recruits. The humans, however, knew better. Deep in a forgotten sector of space, the ship had been hiding, waiting for the right moment to strike. Commander Kara Michaels stood in the control room of the human fleet. She stared at the holographic display, watching the alien armada approach. The odds were not in their favor. The humans were outnumbered, and their ships were no match for the alien technology. But Kara wasn't worried. She knew something the rest of her crew didn't. Behind her, a voice spoke softly. "Commander, we've just received a signal from the Phantom." Kara's heart raced. It was finally happening. The warship that had been lost for centuries was returning, just when it was needed most. "Prepare the fleet," Kara ordered, her voice steady. "It's time to remind the galaxy why they fear us." As the fleet gathered, the Phantom appeared out of nowhere. Its massive form emerged from the shadows of space, cloaked in darkness, like a ghost coming back to life. The ship was unlike any other. Its sleek, black hull shimmered with an eerie glow, and its weapons were far beyond anything the humans had ever seen. The alien fleet, confident in their superiority, didn't see it coming. They had no idea that the stories were true. And when the Phantom fired its first shot, the shockwave sent the enemy ships spiraling out of control. The warship's weapons were so powerful that entire sections of the alien fleet vanished in an instant. Kara watched as the battle unfolded, feeling a surge of hope for the first time in months. The warship that had been nothing but a myth was now a living nightmare for their enemies. It was the weapon that could turn the tide of war, and it had only just begun. The Phantom hovered at the edge of the galaxy, its engines silent as it drifted toward the unknown. Kara Michaels stared at the glowing hologram of the galaxy on the command bridge, her fingers tapping nervously on the control panel. The Etherians had given them a task that felt impossible: to face the darkness, a cosmic force that had awoken and was consuming everything in its path. The crew had spent hours preparing, gathering what supplies they could, and ensuring that the Phantom was fully armed. But Kara knew that no amount of firepower would stop the darkness. They needed something more, something that the Phantom was supposed to have, hidden deep within its ancient systems. "Commander," Lieutenant Ramos's voice broke through the tense silence. "We've got the coordinates. The darkness is just ahead. The core of it is located in the heart of the nebula Epsilon." Kara nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. The nebula Epsilon was a place of legends, a massive cloud of energy that no one had ever ventured into and returned from. It was said to be the home of forgotten stars and forgotten gods, a place where reality itself seemed to bend and twist. "All right," Kara said, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her. "Set course for the core. Full speed ahead." The Phantom lurched forward as the crew obeyed. Kara watched the stars outside shift into streaks of light as the ship sped into the heart of the unknown. Every second felt like an eternity. She could almost feel the presence of the darkness pulling them in, the weight of its power pressing against them. "We're entering the nebula," Ramos said, his voice tense. "It's like nothing we've ever seen before. The sensors are going haywire." Kara gritted her teeth. "Keep going. We can't turn back now." The ship pushed deeper into the nebula, the view outside becoming more distorted with each passing moment. The stars began to fade, replaced by swirling clouds of dark energy. It was as if they were traveling through a tunnel of pure shadow, a place where even light was consumed. "We're approaching the core," Ramos reported. "I'm picking up a massive energy signature. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered." Kara nodded, her focus unwavering. "Get ready. Once we're in range, we need to activate the Phantom's heart. We don't have much time before the darkness reaches us." The Phantom shuddered as it neared the core of the darkness. The energy in the air was overwhelming, causing the ship's systems to flicker and spark. Kara could feel the presence of something ancient and powerful, as if the very fabric of space was being torn apart. "We're there," Ramos said, his voice filled with awe. "The core is just ahead. It's alive." Kara's heart raced. She knew they were facing something far beyond their understanding, but there was no turning back now. She had to trust in the power of the Phantom and in the strength of her crew. "Prepare the Phantom," Kara ordered. "Activate the heart." The ship hummed with energy as the crew worked quickly to unlock the ancient power hidden deep within the warship's core. Kara felt a tremor run through the ship as the power surged, and for a moment she feared it might not be enough. But then, the Phantom glowed with a bright, blinding light. The darkness seemed to recoil. "We've done it," Ramos shouted, his voice filled with excitement. But Kara knew it wasn't over yet. They had only activated the Phantom's power. The real battle was about to begin. A dark, swirling mass loomed before them, a giant storm of shadow and energy. The core of the darkness was now visible, and it was like nothing they had ever seen before. It was an enormous, swirling entity, its shape constantly shifting and changing, as if it was made of pure darkness itself. Kara tightened her grip on the control panel. "All hands, brace yourselves. This is the final push. We either defeat this thing, or we don't make it out." The crew exchanged determined looks, each person silently understanding the gravity of the situation. They had come so far, but now they would have to face the true power of the darkness. And only the Phantom had the power to stand against it. The Phantom was no longer just a warship. It had become a symbol of something much bigger. Kara Michaels could feel the weight of her responsibility pressing down on her with every passing day. The Etherians had made it clear. The galaxy was on the brink of something catastrophic, and the Phantom might be the only thing capable of stopping it. But what did that mean? And why had the ship chosen her? The fleet moved through space at full speed, heading toward an ancient station, where the Etherians promised they would find answers. Kara stood in front of the command window, staring out at the endless stars, her mind racing. Every decision she made now would affect not just her crew, but the future of the entire galaxy. "Commander, we're approaching the station." Lieutenant Ramos's voice broke her thoughts. "We'll be in range in a few minutes." Kara nodded. "Prepare the crew. We're not sure what we'll find there. Stay sharp." As the fleet entered the station's vicinity, a strange feeling washed over the crew. There was an eerie silence in the air, as though the station itself was waiting. The massive structure seemed to hum with energy, glowing softly against the darkness of space. It looked ancient, yet somehow alive, its surface covered with symbols and designs that none of them recognized. "Everything's stable," Ramos said. "We're entering the docking bay now." The Phantom glided toward the docking station, its engines humming in perfect sync with the station's energy field. Kara's heart pounded in her chest as the ship gently touched down. The doors to the docking bay slowly opened, revealing a team of Etherians waiting for them. The Etherians were not human, but their form was humanoid, their skin glowing faintly with a soft light. Their leader, the one who had spoken to Kara earlier, stepped forward, his eyes shimmering with wisdom beyond anything Kara had ever encountered. "You've arrived," the Etherian said, his voice calm. "Welcome to the Nexus." Kara stepped off the ship, her boots clicking against the metal floor of the station. "What is this place?" she asked, her eyes scanning the surroundings. The station was massive, far larger than any human-made structure. Its walls pulsed with energy, and strange symbols floated in midair, glowing faintly. "This is the heart of the Aetherians," the leader explained. "It is a place where the balance of the galaxy is maintained. But that balance is now in jeopardy." Kara's gaze fixed on him. "What do you mean?" "The universe is fracturing," the Aetherian continued. "An ancient force is awakening, one that could destroy everything. It is a power unlike any we faced before. The Phantom, and the human ingenuity that created it, are the key to stopping it." Kara's mind raced. An ancient force. What could be more dangerous than the fleets they had already faced? She glanced at the crew, their faces filled with uncertainty, but also hope. They were in this together, no matter what. "How do we stop it?" Kara asked. The Aetherian leader stepped aside, revealing a massive hologram of the galaxy. Stars and planets shifted on the screen, and a dark spot grew larger, spreading like a shadow. "This is the darkness. It is an entity, ancient and powerful, that feeds on the energy of stars. It has awakened from its slumber and is slowly consuming everything in its path." Kara's breath caught in her throat. "How can we fight something like that?" The Aetherian's eyes glowed brighter. "The Phantom holds a unique energy, one that can counter the darkness. But you must unlock its full potential. Only then will you be able to stop it." Kara swallowed hard. She had always known that the Phantom was special, but this was beyond anything she could have imagined. The weight of the galaxy's future rested on her shoulders. "We're ready," Kara said, her voice steady. "Tell us what we need to do." The Aetherian leader nodded. "The first step is to reconnect the Phantom with its true power. The technology you have is only a fraction of what is possible. You must journey to the core of the darkness and activate the heart of the Phantom. Only then can you defeat it." Kara felt a chill run through her. The core of the darkness. It sounded impossible, but she had no choice. If there was even a chance to save the galaxy, she had to take it. "Then let's begin," Kara said, determination in her voice. After the battle, the fleet returned to the human colony, victorious but weary. The crew of the Phantom had proven themselves, but Kara Michaels knew that this victory was only a small part of a much bigger war. The enemy fleet had been crushed, but there were more enemies out there. Other fleets, other battles, and a universe that had yet to feel the full power of humanity's last hope. Kara walked through the quiet corridors of the flagship, her mind heavy with thoughts. She could hear the quiet hum of the ship's engines and the occasional footsteps of crew members as they passed. She had been through many battles, but this one felt different. The Phantom was unlike any weapon they had ever known, and now that it had shown its power, it was only a matter of time before someone came looking for it. As she entered the command room, Lieutenant Ramos looked up from his console, his face tense. "Commander, we've picked up a transmission. It's from the Council." The Council, the highest authority in the galaxy. Kara had always respected them, but lately their decisions had felt more distant. They were more concerned with politics than with the survival of the colonies. "What do they want now?" Kara asked, her voice sharp. Ramos hesitated before speaking. "They've heard about the Phantom. They want us to bring it in for inspection." Kara's eyes narrowed. She knew what that meant. If the Council got their hands on the warship, they would take control of it, and it might never be used again to defend humanity. She had to make a decision, one that would shape the future of the galaxy. "I don't trust them," Kara muttered under her breath. "We can't let them take it." "Are you saying we should refuse their orders?" Ramos asked, a look of disbelief on his face. "That could mean war, Commander." Kara looked at him, her expression hardening. "Sometimes the right decision is the hardest one to make. We can't let the Council control the Phantom. It's our weapon, and we need it to protect ourselves." The room fell silent as everyone took in her words. No one had expected this kind of decision. The Council held power over the galaxy, and defying them was risky, but Kara knew they couldn't afford to lose the warship. "We'll need to move quickly," Kara continued. "Get the crew ready for a jump to the outer rim. We'll hide the Phantom there until we can figure out what to do next." "Understood," Ramos said, nodding. He knew there was no turning back now. As the orders were relayed to the fleet, Kara took a deep breath. She felt the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. If they were going to keep the Phantom, they would have to face not just the aliens, but the very people they had sworn to protect. The ship's engines roared to life, and soon, the Phantom was slipping into the vast reaches of space once more. The Council might be coming for them, but Kara had no intention of going down without a fight. The Phantom raced toward the heart of the darkness, its engines roaring with power. Kara Michaels gripped the controls, her eyes fixed on the swirling mass of shadow ahead. The battle was far from over. The Phantom's power had been unleashed, but the true test had just begun. The darkness was not a simple force. It was alive, intelligent, and it seemed to know exactly how to counter every move the Phantom made. Kara could feel the pressure of the galaxy's fate resting heavily on her shoulders. This was the moment that would decide everything. "Commander," Lieutenant Ramos called, his voice tense. "We're entering the core's outer layer. The energy levels are off the charts. We can't take too much of this." Kara nodded, her jaw set with determination. "We don't have a choice. Keep pushing forward." The Phantom shook violently as the darkness seemed to reach out with tendrils of energy, trying to drag them in. The ship's shields flared brightly, holding strong against the force, but Kara knew they couldn't last forever. They needed to find a way to strike back, and fast. "Prepare the main cannon," Kara ordered. "We'll need every bit of firepower to break through." Ramos and the crew scrambled to position the weapon. The Phantom's main cannon was powerful, but it was still untested in a battle of this scale. No one knew if it could even damage something as massive as the darkness. "Main cannon ready, Commander," Ramos said, his voice tight. "Firing in 3, 2, 1. The cannon fired with a tremendous blast, a beam of concentrated energy aimed directly at the heart of the darkness. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. The ship held its breath, waiting for a reaction. And then, the darkness recoiled, as if in pain. "Did we hit it?" Ramos asked, his voice full of hope. But Kara knew better. "That's just the beginning. Keep firing. We need to break it apart, piece by piece." The Phantom unleashed volley after volley, each shot making the darkness writhe and shrink. But the core was vast, and no matter how much they hit it, the darkness didn't seem to be weakening enough. "Commander," shouted Lieutenant Ramos, panic in his voice. "It's retaliating." The ship jolted violently as waves of dark energy slammed into it, pushing them back. Kara's grip tightened on the controls, fighting against the chaos that threatened to tear them apart. The Phantom was strong, but even it had its limits. "We can't keep this up," Ramos shouted. "We need more power, or we'll be consumed." Kara's mind raced. She thought back to everything they had learned, everything the Aetherians had said. The Phantom was not just a ship, it was a weapon. And that weapon could only reach its full potential if they tapped into something beyond its current capabilities. "Ramos, do we have access to the core's full power?" Kara asked, a dangerous idea forming in her mind. Ramos hesitated for a moment. "It's risky, Commander. We could lose the ship, or worse." "We don't have time for risky," Kara said, her voice firm. "We're all in. Full power to the core." Ramos gave her a sharp nod, and with a deep breath, he activated the ship's inner systems, diverting all available energy to the central core. The Phantom hummed with intense energy, its entire body glowing brighter than ever before. Kara steeled herself. Brace for impact. With the flick of a switch, the Phantom's power surged. The cannon fired once again, this time with an intensity that sent shockwaves through the station. The beam was so strong that it seemed to tear through the very fabric of the darkness itself. For a moment, the core of the darkness flickered. Then, it collapsed inward, a ripple of energy spreading outward like a shockwave. The darkness screamed, an otherworldly sound that seemed to tear at the very fabric of space. Kara watched in awe as the darkness began to disintegrate, piece by piece. It was working. They were winning. But Kara knew the battle wasn't over yet. There would be more challenges ahead, more enemies to face. But this was a victory, a first step toward a future where the galaxy could rebuild. "Keep firing," Kara shouted. "We finish this now." The Phantom unleashed one final blast, and the darkness shattered into nothingness. The stars around them slowly began to return, their light slowly breaking through the void. The Phantom drifted, its systems straining, but intact. The crew stared at the aftermath, the galaxy silent once again. The stars were distant and cold as the Phantom continued its journey through the vast, empty space. The fleet had managed to slip away from the mysterious fleet that had chased them, but the relief was short-lived. Kara Michaels knew they couldn't outrun every threat. The galaxy was full of enemies, and the warship, once thought to be a myth, was now the most wanted ship in the universe. Kara stood at the command deck, her eyes fixed on the stars outside. The silence was deafening. The crew had been working nonstop, but the atmosphere was thick with tension. They were running out of time. "We need to find answers," Kara muttered, more to herself than anyone else. The Starborn Collective had warned her that the galaxy was changing. The mysterious fleet had shown them that there were greater powers at play, powers they didn't fully understand. "Commander," Lieutenant Ramos said, breaking the silence, "we've detected something. It's not another fleet, but it's close. We should investigate." Kara turned to face him, her expression serious. "Do we have a choice?" He shook his head. "We're too far from any known star systems to avoid it. It's either go to them, or they come to us." Without a word, Kara motioned for the course to be set. The Phantom adjusted its path toward the signal, its engines humming with quiet power. As they neared the source, a strange feeling washed over Kara. Something told her that this encounter would be different from the rest. The fleet slowed as they approached a massive, floating structure. It was unlike anything Kara had ever seen before. A colossal station, half hidden in the dark space. It was ancient, yet its technology hummed with life. Kara's heart skipped a beat. Could this be the Starborn Collective's base, or perhaps another force altogether? "Commander," Ramos called out, "we've received a message. It's from the station. They want to speak with you." Kara's eyes narrowed. "Patch it through." The communication screen flickered to life, revealing a figure, a humanoid being, but unlike anything Kara had ever seen. Its face was long, with glowing eyes and skin that shimmered with a strange light. The being spoke in a language she didn't understand at first, but soon a translator kicked in. "Commander Kara Michaels," the being said, its voice deep and calm. "You have been chosen. The Phantom is a weapon of unimaginable power, and it must not fall into the wrong hands." Kara's heart raced. This was no ordinary encounter. "Who are you?" she demanded. "And why do you think you have the right to make such demands?" The being's glowing eyes seemed to pierce through her, as if reading her very thoughts. "We are the Aetherians, an ancient race tasked with protecting the balance of the universe. The Phantom was once a part of that balance, but it has been lost. Until now." Kara felt a chill run down her spine. The Phantom had been a weapon, a force capable of reshaping the galaxy. But now it seemed to have a greater role in the universe, a role that even Kara couldn't fully understand. "We seek your help, Commander," the Aetherian continued. "The galaxy stands on the edge of destruction, but the power of the Phantom, and the human ingenuity that brought it back to life, may be the only thing that can save us all." Kara's mind spun. She wasn't sure if she could trust this being, but one thing was certain. The stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. She had no choice but to play her part. "We'll help," Kara said, her voice steady. "But you need to explain everything. No more secrets." The Aetherian nodded. "In time, Commander. In time." As the communication ended, Kara stood at the front of the command room, the weight of the galaxy pressing down on her. She didn't know what the future held, but she did know one thing. The Phantom was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol of hope or destruction, and the fate of the galaxy would depend on the choices they made from this point forward. "Prepare for the next phase," Kara said, her voice resolute. "We're not done yet." As the Phantom set course for the unknown, Kara couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was only beginning. The battle was far from over, and the Phantom wasn't done yet. Kara Michael stood at the front of her command center, watching as the holographic battle map flickered with updates. The alien fleet was in chaos. Ships were disintegrating in clouds of fire and debris, their once mighty armada crumbling under the force of the warship's power. But the aliens weren't going to give up easily. Their remaining ships formed a tight defensive formation, trying to regroup and counterattack. Kara knew that this was the moment when things could go either way. If they didn't finish the job now, the aliens would find a way to strike back with everything they had. "Commander," said Lieutenant Ramos, one of Kara's most trusted officers, "the enemy fleet is trying to regroup. They're retreating to a nearby asteroid field to set up a new defensive position." Kara's eyes narrowed. The asteroid field was a perfect spot for the aliens to hide, using the rocks for cover. It would make it harder for the Phantom to target them. But Kara knew something the aliens didn't. She looked at her crew, her face determined. "Order the fleet to follow them, but keep a safe distance. We don't want to get too close," she commanded. "And keep the Phantom on standby. We may need its firepower again." The fleet moved cautiously toward the asteroid field, staying just outside the range of the alien defenses. The asteroid field was vast, stretching for light years in every direction. It was a maze of rocks and debris, with enough space to hide 1,000 ships. The perfect place for a trap. "Stay alert, everyone," Kara said into the comms. "We don't know what the aliens are planning." As they entered the field, the quiet of space seemed to press in on them. The only sound was the hum of the ship's engines and the soft beeps from the control panels. Every officer was on edge, watching the holographic displays for any sign of the alien fleet. Then, out of nowhere, an explosion rocked their ship. Kara was thrown forward, her heart racing as alarms blared throughout the command room. "Report," she barked, regaining her footing. "We've been hit by an asteroid fragment, Commander," said Ensign Davis, her voice shaking. "Minor damage, but the shields are down by 20%. "Damn it," Kara muttered. "Get those shields back up, and find out where the aliens are hiding." The crew worked quickly to repair the damage, but it was clear that they were in danger. The aliens were using the asteroid field to their advantage, launching surprise attacks from every direction. Suddenly, the holographic display flickered again. A new blip appeared on the screen, an enormous alien ship that had been hiding behind one of the larger asteroids. It was bigger than anything they had seen before, with weapons that glowed like the stars. "That ship is a heavy cruiser," said Lieutenant Ramos. "It's bigger, faster, and more powerful than anything in their fleet." Kara clenched her fists. This was the real battle. If they could destroy that cruiser, they would break the aliens' last line of defense. "Get the Phantom into position," Kara ordered. "It's time to finish this." The warship appeared from the shadows once more, its sleek form moving with deadly precision. It was like a ghost, slipping through the asteroid field with ease. The massive cruiser fired its weapons, but the Phantom was too fast. The first shot from its guns sent the alien ship spiraling into the darkness of space, its crew unable to react in time. With the last of the enemy's strength shattered, the remaining ships began to flee, scattering into the unknown reaches of space. Kara watched as the enemy forces fell apart. The battle was won. The myth had proven true, and humanity had found its savior in the form of the Phantom. But as the crew celebrated their victory, Kara couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much bigger. The fleet moved in silence through the empty reaches of space. The encounter with the mysterious Starborn Collective had left Kara Michaels with more questions than answers. Who were they? Why had they come? And what did they know about the Phantom? Kara's mind couldn't stop turning, but she knew she couldn't dwell on it for long. The stakes were too high. The crew worked tirelessly, keeping the ship in perfect condition, while Kara spent long hours in the command room, analyzing every piece of data they had. The fleet was far from safe, and the possibility of the Starborn, or worse, the Council, finding them still loomed over them like a storm cloud. "Commander," Lieutenant Ramos's voice interrupted her thoughts. "We've detected something unusual. It's another fleet, but it's not the Council's. They're not broadcasting any signals. They're just out there." Kara's heart skipped a beat. Another fleet. This was no coincidence. The enemy was closing in. They had to know about the Phantom. She stood up quickly, her eyes sharp. "Where are they?" Ramos brought up a holographic display, showing a fleet of dark ships that seemed to blend into the blackness of space. There were no lights, no markings, just shadows in the distance. "They're a few hours away. If we move now, we might be able to avoid them." Kara didn't hesitate. They couldn't afford to wait. The Phantom had been designed for combat, but that didn't mean they should risk an unnecessary fight. "Set course for the Nebula Cluster," she ordered. "We'll use the clouds to mask our movements. We don't want to be seen." Ramos nodded, quickly relaying the orders to the fleet. As the ships adjusted their course, Kara looked out of the window at the vastness of space. Every decision now felt like a matter of life and death. If they couldn't stay hidden, they would be forced to fight, and she wasn't sure the fleet was ready for another battle. The Nebula Cluster loomed ahead, a swirling cloud of gas and dust that would provide a natural shield. But as the fleet entered the nebula, a sudden alarm blared throughout the ship. Kara's heart sank. "What is it?" "Something's wrong," Ramos replied, his fingers flying over the console. "The ship's behind us. They've changed course. They're following us into the nebula." Kara cursed under her breath. They had been spotted. The mysterious fleet had picked up their trail, and now they were trapped. There was no more room to run. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Kara commanded. "We'll make them think we're out of control." Ramos worked quickly, activating the ship's defensive systems. The crew scrambled to their stations, ready for a fight. Kara knew they couldn't outrun this fleet. They would have to outsmart them. The Phantom dove deeper into the nebula, its sensors struggling to get a clear read in the dense clouds. The enemy fleet followed, closing in with alarming speed. Kara's fingers gripped the edge of the command console as she thought furiously. The nebula was a maze, but the enemy wasn't giving up. "They're getting closer," Ramos warned. Kara's mind clicked into action. "Switch to long-range missiles. Fire when they're in range. We'll use the nebula to mask our shots." The crew worked with precision, launching a series of long-range missiles. The Phantom fired blindly into the nebula, hoping to hit their target. The enemy fleet, unsure of their position, hesitated, and in that split second, Kara saw her opening. "Now," she said, voice steady, "full speed ahead. We break through the nebula." The Phantom surged forward, cutting through the dense clouds of gas and dust. The fleet followed, but the missiles had done their job. They were disoriented, unable to track the warship's movements. As the Phantom emerged from the other side, the enemy fleet was lost behind them, scattered and confused. Kara took a deep breath, her heart still pounding. They had made it, this time. But the war was far from over. They had evaded one threat, but the questions remained. Who were the mysterious fleet? Why were they after the Phantom? And would they be able to survive the next confrontation? As the fleet continued to move deeper into uncharted space, Kara knew that their journey was just beginning. The cold darkness of deep space stretched before them, endless and silent. Kara Michaels sat at the helm of the flagship, her eyes locked on the view of the stars outside. The hum of the ship's engines was the only sound in the control room. The fleet had entered the outer rim, a place where few ships ventured. It was a barren stretch of space, far from the reach of the Council or any known enemy. Here, they would be safe. For now. Kara felt the weight of her decision pressing down on her. Defying the Council wasn't something she had taken lightly. The Council had always been the backbone of the galaxy, making decisions that shaped the fate of entire worlds. But the Phantom was something different. It was too powerful to be controlled by politicians who had no understanding of the real war that was brewing. The galaxy needed the Phantom, and Kara wasn't about to let anyone take it from them. "Commander," Lieutenant Ramos's voice broke through her thoughts. He stepped into the control room, his face tight with concern. "We've detected something strange." "What is it?" Kara asked, her voice steady, but her heart picking up pace. Ramos pointed to the holographic display, where a small blip appeared on the screen. It was moving fast, much faster than anything they had ever seen. "It's not a ship from the fleet. It's too small to be one of the Council's vessels, but it's definitely not an asteroid or debris." Kara's stomach twisted. "A scout? A lone ship?" "Could be," Ramos replied. "It's heading straight for us." Kara's mind raced. Whoever, or whatever, was coming for them had to know about the Phantom. It was the only explanation. The Council might have sent a scout to find them. Kara knew they couldn't let anyone discover their location. If that happened, it wouldn't be just the Council coming for them. It would be the entire galaxy. "Shut down all communications. We don't want them to trace us," Kara ordered. "Prepare the fleet. We don't know who we're dealing with yet." The crew moved quickly, following her orders without question. Kara's thoughts raced. If it was the Council's scout, they were already in deep trouble. If it was something worse, something they didn't expect, the consequences could be catastrophic. The Phantom's power had to remain a secret at all costs. Minutes passed, but it felt like hours. The small blip grew larger on the screen, and Kara could feel the tension building in the room. The crew was silent, waiting for her next command. She could feel their eyes on her, waiting for her to make a decision. "Commander," Ramos said again, his voice now laced with worry. "They're getting closer. We need to act fast." Kara took a deep breath. Her mind was clear now. There was no room for fear. Get the Phantom ready for combat. We can't let them get too close. The warship, the Phantom, was the key to everything. Kara knew that now more than ever. It wasn't just a weapon. It was humanity's last hope. If anyone got too close, if anyone discovered its power, it could be the end. The blip on the screen grew larger, now unmistakable. It was a ship, but it wasn't one they recognized. The moment of truth had come. "Target locked," Ramos announced, his voice tense. "What should we do?" Kara looked at the display. The unknown ship was close enough now that they could see its shape, a sleek, unfamiliar design. "Hold fire. Let's see what they want first." The strange ship hovered at a distance, its sleek, dark shape silhouetted against the stars. Kara Michaels stood at the front of the command room, her fingers tapping lightly on the console. Every second that passed felt like an eternity. The crew was on edge, waiting for her orders. The unknown ship had stopped advancing, but was still too close for comfort. "We're not picking up any signs of weapons or hostile intent," Lieutenant Ramos reported, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "They seem to be waiting for us to make the first move." Kara narrowed her eyes. She didn't like waiting. Whoever was out there knew exactly how to play the game. The Phantom was no ordinary warship, and the unknown ship must have known that. It wasn't just a scout, as she first thought. This felt like a test, a trap, or worse, a warning. "Open a channel," Kara ordered. Her voice was calm, but her mind raced. Let's find out who they are. A crackle of static filled the room. Then a calm, almost serene voice broke through. Commander Kara Michaels of the Phantom. The voice was smooth and polite, but there was an edge to it. I come in peace. Kara stiffened. There was something strange about the way the voice said, peace. She didn't trust it. Who are you? She asked, her tone firm, not giving away any sign of weakness. We are from the Starborn Collective. The voice responded, unmistakably calm. We've been watching the Phantom for a long time. We know what it is, and we know what you've done. The words hit Kara like a punch to the gut. The Starborn Collective. A name that had never come up in her strategic meetings or anywhere in the fleet's archives. A name that sounded old and powerful. You've been watching us. Kara's voice betrayed no emotion, but inside, her mind was racing. The voice continued, seemingly oblivious to her suspicions. We don't want to fight. In fact, we could help you, but we need to know we can trust you. Trust. Kara repeated. Her mind was racing. They knew the Phantom's power, but did they understand what it meant? Did they know the warship could change the fate of entire fleets? She had no idea who these Starborn were or what they wanted, but she couldn't risk trusting anyone. Not yet. I don't know you, Kara said, her voice growing colder. And I'm not about to trust a ship that's been spying on us from the shadows. The voice seemed to pause, as if considering her words. We have no intention of spying, Commander. We have watched you, but only to understand, to see if you would be an ally or a threat. The Phantom is a powerful weapon, one that could either save the galaxy or destroy it. Kara's eyes narrowed. This was no ordinary encounter. The Starborn Collective was offering her a choice, an invitation, but also a warning. They were trying to gauge her, figure out if she was a friend or foe. We don't need allies, Kara said coldly. What we need is to be left alone. There was a brief silence before the voice responded. Very well. But understand this, Commander. The galaxy is changing, and sooner or later, you will have to choose where your loyalties lie. We'll be watching. With that, the communication cut off, and the mysterious ship turned and vanished into the dark void of space, as if it had never been there. Kara stood still for a moment, her mind racing. What had just happened? Who were these Starborn? And what did they know about the Phantom? One thing was certain. The threat was far from over. The galaxy was a much larger and more dangerous place than she had ever realized.